Some of the world's most high-profile CEOs are in China for an annual business forum, and among them is the first U.S. politician to visit Beijing since President Donald Trump took office. Joyce Tseng reports.
Top business leaders from around the world gather in Beijing as China looks to recover from drops in foreign investment in a global economy mired in tariffs from U.S. President Donald Trump. China alone has been hit with a blanket 20% tax by Washington on all its goods, with more possibly to come. Beijing already hitting back with levies of its own. Also at the annual forum, U.S. Senator Steve Daines from Montana, a Trump ally and the first American politician to visit China since Trump retook office. Meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, Beijing's second-in-command told Daines now is the time for the U.S. and China to work together. Daines, who previously spent 6 years in China while at Procter & Gamble, also met with China's top economic official, Vice Premier He Lifeng. In that meeting, Daines' office says the senator urged Beijing to stop the flow of chemicals for the potent opioid fentanyl, a key issue for Washington and a reason behind its steep tariffs.
He'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Trump is set to detail closely watched reciprocal levies on its trading partners next week, an occasion Trump is calling Liberation Day in America. But the U.S. president has suggested there may be room to negotiate with China.
Well, I'll be speaking to President Xi. I have a great relationship with him. We're going to have a very good relationship. I don't change, but the word flexibility is an important word. Sometimes there's flexibility, so there'll be flexibility, but basically it's reciprocal.
In Beijing, some signs of market confidence from global executives. The head of automaking giant Mercedes-Benz announced over $1.9 billion in new products and technology in China. Others pointed to opportunities in AI, a sensitive technology central to stiff U.S.-China competition.
We have to recognize that the world's economy is in the midst of a massive transformation, which is driven by many aspects. And one of the most important ones might be technology and artificial intelligence in particular.
Some CEOs are expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week. Meanwhile, the prospects of a higher-level talk between Trump and Xi are still unclear, as Washington's reciprocal tariff launch date quickly approaches. Eason and Joyce for TaiwanPlus.
What would win-win economic cooperation between the U.S. and China look like? For more on Chinese Premier Li Qiang's call to open markets amid what he described as rising instability, Joyce spoke to Daniel Liu, an economist at a Taipei think tank.
In a meeting with U.S. Senator Steve Daines, China's Li Qiang said that the two countries should choose dialogue over confrontation. But given the current climate of Trump's tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, what is the best-case scenario for Beijing and Washington right now?
The U.S. and China will. Of course, they will try to engage in the dialogues, or the Xi Jinping may pay a visit to the U.S. to meet Trump. However, but I think the confrontation and the U.S. definitely will impose more tariff on the Chinese product. Also, will impose more export and import restriction on mainland China. I think that is the typical scenario we should anticipate. For Trump's second term, we can see the Trump imposed the tariff not only focus on mainland China, but also apply to other countries which have relatively high trade surplus against the U.S. On April 2nd, he will announce the so-called reciprocal tariff, so-called 30-15. Taiwan may be also on the list. The U.S. trade deficit against mainland China has been reduced significantly. But however, we should also realize that China is still the largest trade deficit country of the U.S.
At the Development Forum, we're also seeing several global CEOs talk about their confidence in business opportunities in the China market. How much has the climate improved for these foreign investors?
Since China launched the U.S. trade war back to the 2018, we can see the flow of the foreign investors to mainland China has decreased. In particular, for the past 2 years, we can see the trend still declining. For this year China Development Forum, I think one of the major target for mainland China is to try to provide a more suitable investment climate to the foreign large enterprise. But however, I don't see that will generate a significant positive effect. The major reason is China still face very high uncertainty on the penalties from the U.S. But however, we can see China is still the second largest market, only next to the U.S. Mercedes-Benz, China is the largest auto consumption market in the world. So still, on the one hand, it's still very attractive to the foreigners. But on the other hand, China has to face, very high uncertainty or very high trade sanctions from the U.S. So that is, the two opposite forces,
U.S. President Donald Trump has hinted at some sort of flexibility around his reciprocal tariffs. What does that mean to you?
Well, we can take the Canada and Mexico as the example. He first announced, because of the illegal immigrant problem, U.S. will impose the tariff on Canada and Mexico. And then he will see the improvement, the reaction from the U.S. counterparts. They can make some improvement. Trump may delay or may temporarily suspend the penalty tariff. That is very typical. Trump used the tariff as the bargaining chips or the negotiation weapons.